Kia ora koutou katoa, nau mai hara mai ki te ao Hākinakina, your sports show right here on your Tribal Pulse. Te kore mako o Taranaki 94.8 FM and 98.4 FM. Well, she is a rising talent in women's rugby. She has already represented her home province of Taranaki as well as Waikato. Known for her strength and her agility in the midfield, she has since taken her passion for the game to the international stage, signing with Eibar Rugby Taldea in Spain. Her move abroad marks a bold step in her career, showcasing her commitment to growth, cultural exchange, and representing wāhine Māori on the global rugby scene. Nau mai, hara mai, Rongomaihenga Hohaia, kia ora.
Tēnā tātou katoa, kia ora Caps.
Hey, good to see you, Rongo, calling in all the way from the Waikato. Awesome to have you on the show. Really excited about having a kōrero to you and hearing about your amazing journey. But before we get started, ko wai koe, no he koe, just a bit about yourself and where you're from.
Tēnā tātou katoa, he uri tēnei no Pariaka. I grew up in Pariaka, scabby-kneed, snotty-nosed Māori girl from Pariaka. My marae is all three marae, but I come from the one on top of the hill, if you know Pariaka well. And I eventually went from Pariaka and moved into town to live there for a couple of years during my boarding school time. But I'm from the Hohaia whānau. Very proud to be the granddaughter of Te Miringa Hohaia and very proud to be a descendant of Pariaka.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's lovely to know those connections there. Rongo to Pariaka, such a beautiful place there. Now, sports out of Pariaka, when you're a little girl and on the coast, like what sports did you play as a young girl? Was it always rugby or was there other sports?
I grew up playing netball. You could ask my loved ones now. I'll always say that netball has a special place in my heart. If I could have been a silver fern, I would have. Unfortunately, I wasn't as skilled at netball as I was at rugby, so I eventually had to pick one, and I ended up picking rugby, but I love netball. So that's what I grew up playing since I was 3 years old, all the way until I was 18 at Sacred Heart Girls. So yeah, that was my sport, netball.
Beautiful, and a good sport it is. But now rugby, you've really taken on the rugby route now. So can you tell us about your earlier rugby kind of journey and where it all began for you and what inspired you to play rugby?
So I started playing rugby in year 9 of high school at Sacred Heart. I had a few friends that were playing in the team and it inspired me to just go along and have a look. And I think I'd always had the build for it. And so my dad always encouraged me to go and have a look at playing contact sports, and it just happened that I was, all right at it.
Nice. Well, you went on to represent the Taranaki Uio, and also played for Waikato, I believe, in a few different grades. What have been some of the kind of standout moments for you, representing your province and representing Waikato in your time since playing here in Aotearoa?
Yeah, I've really loved playing for my province, Taranaki. I was with them from 13 or 14 all the way until 19 maybe, and they've really looked after me. And I think some key moments for me is going through the academy system and how much they've poured their resources into me, gym, nutrition, physios, and how that's really contributed to the athlete that I am today and all the different facets that you need to be strong in, like nutrition. And so I feel really privileged, because it is a privilege to go through a system like that, because it's expensive to learn those things. And I'm definitely seeing the fruits of going through their academy system, which I'm really grateful for.
That's awesome. And they do have an awesome system there, and some amazing young kōrero have come through that system here in Taranaki as well. Now, let's talk about your move to Spain. So what motivated your move to Spain to play for, I think I'm saying it right, Eibar Rugby Taldea, and how did that opportunity come about?
So I'd been playing in the development team for Waikato for a couple of years, and I think Waikato's rugby is the strongest in the country, and it's actually been very difficult building my way up into the FPC team. But it is, again, a privilege to be playing in Waikato because iron sharpens iron. And I think I just wanted a change from development. And so the Waikato Rugby Union had scouts approaching them from Spain, asking if there were any players that would want to put their name forward to go over there. And through the union, my name got put forward. And I put my hand up, and a scout organised with me to have a contract signed, and it was all expenses paid, so flights, rent, a home, and they also paid you monthly. So it was a very good opportunity for me to go and see the world. And I mean, it was a little bit of a holiday, to be honest, because you know, you don't have any expenses, you have enough money to actually travel over there. So I did a lot of traveling while I was there, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. So I'm really lucky.
Wow, what an experience. Now, talking about that experience, how was that experience kind of playing rugby in Europe differed from what you play here in Aotearoa? Is it quite different, the footy?
Yes, I will say that the footy over there is a lot faster. They like to play quick. They've got much smaller girls, so your props would look like, New Zealand 10s or 12s over here. They're really poto, really small, but they're really fast. So I had to learn to stay on my toes and, play with that excitement of it being really quick. But in saying that, I did notice how privileged we are in New Zealand to have such a deep pool of women that are great rugby players, because we get imported to go over there and strengthen their teams. That's what our purpose is. And you almost go as one, to strengthen the girls, but two, also to take your knowledge from New Zealand and give it over to, the Spanish and the Europeans.
That's beautiful. That knowledge sharing is so important. Well, Wano, make sure to stay tuned with us. We're going to go to a short break now, but make sure you stay tuned, because we'll come back and speak to Rongo more about her experiences over there in Spain playing rugby union on the other side of the world. Kia ora koutou, welcome back to Te Ao Hākinakina, your sports show right here on your Tribal Pulse, Te Korimako o Taranaki. Now we have a very special guest with us, whānau. Rongomaihenga Hohaia is having a kōrero to us about her journey in sports and rugby union in particular, and in particular around her journeys over to Spain. Now, Rongo, what have been some of the biggest challenges in adapting to life overseas, both on and off the field? What are some of those cultural differences, or just differences in general in terms of society?
I think the classic one that everyone will say is language. That's definitely a barrier, but I'm extremely privileged to have made a friend group over there who had been there for a couple of seasons, and they were New Zealanders and Australians. So they had learnt the language already, and I could just piggyback off them. And, I did end up learning how to order a beer and a coffee in Spanish, which is, I think, the most important thing to be able to do. And aside from language, I would say just the culture is extremely different to New Zealand, but in a way that I actually enjoyed. They're very passionate people. They say what they want to say and they mean it. And they're also very touchy, which I think had a profound effect on me, because I enjoyed seeing the love that they had for each other. And even strangers, it was quite normal for strangers to touch you and you'd get a fright, but after a while I kind of integrated into their culture. And I think seeing love expressed in so many different forms gave me joy and fulfillment. And so now I've tried to bring that back to New Zealand and be not touchy, but like more expressive of how I actually feel, which I think New Zealanders sometimes can feel things but not express it.
Wow, that's some really cool cool kōrero there about the different cultures and how they express their aroha for one another and whatnot. But how did you stay connected to your whānau and your Māori identity while living away and playing abroad?
That was very hard. I think because the time zone's different as well. So I think our time zone is 12 hours off the top of my head. So sometimes I would go periods of time without even being able to talk to my family. But something that I did to stay connected with them was, I think for me, the ocean is such an important part of my identity. I grew up down at Te Korua, as you know, Caps, and so I think just going to the beach and doing simple things like grounding myself and seeing nature was a way of feeling connected to Aotearoa. And I was really lucky that I lived in the Basque Country. This is a bit of Spanish facts for you guys if you didn't know. The Basque Country is on the border of France and Spain, and they're actually a bit like Māori, where they don't identify as Spanish. And they'll be very happy that I'm bringing this up because they want independence from the Spanish. They were there before them, and then they got colonized. And the Basque speak their own language. So eskergasko is a word that I remember, and that means thank you. And they want to be independent from Spain and identify as other.
Wow, I love that. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day. So next time I'm over there, I'll definitely check that out for sure, man. Awesome. Kōrero. Have you noticed like any differences, like when you're over there in terms of like cultural, team culture, like coaching styles or fan engagement, like and all that stuff? Like what's the differences between our two countries?
Yes, I'll actually tell a bit of a funny story because this is what stands out to me the most. It was my first 24 hours in Spain, and I'd landed in Madrid, and we were playing in a town about 3 hours north called Valladolid, and I went to Pepe Rojo. I literally slept, woke up, and had to play the next day. And I was a bit, loopy from the flight, but I played, got off the field, and as I was walking into the changing rooms, I noticed that everyone is just fully beer. And I got the fright of my life because we don't do that in Aotearoa. And one of the girls was crying, one of the other imports. So the Spanish girls had to actually come over and like talk to me. And it's very natural and normal for them to talk, to hug, to cry in that state. And I think as New Zealanders, sometimes you can be a bit judgmental of that because it's just other, but it's completely normal, and they'll do that everywhere. The men's, the women's, and I think it taught me to just be not judgmental, and that cultures have different way of being, and that they accept themselves in their most natural form. And I think it was eye-opening for me. But also the fans are a lot more, I would say, respectful. They don't talk when the 10's taking their kick, so they make sure everyone's silent, and if you are talking you'll get shushed, and it's very rude if you're even whispering or talking. So it's absolute silence. You could hear a pin drop. That's how silent it is. So they've got a few different traditions in terms of rugby over there that's a lot different to New Zealand. But I would say that they're some of the most passionate fans. Their culture definitely translates to the way that they play rugby. They're very passionate, very fiery. I would almost say a little bit grubby because of how passionate they are on the field, and they cry. That's a huge one. They if they lose or if they make a mistake, they cry, and it's almost how would you explain it? It's almost more acceptable to cry after a loss, like the coach expects it out of you, than to be stoic and emotionless. Like that's actually frowned upon. So that was an interesting point of difference for me.
Wow. Well, that's interesting, eh? Hearing the total differences. I love the respect thing, though. The respect for the kickers and stuff like that. That's really awesome. What advice would you give to other young wāhine Māori who dream of playing rugby internationally, like yourself, and going overseas? What would be a bit of advice you would give them?
When I was growing up, I didn't actually see the pathway for rugby, for women's rugby. So I think, first and foremost, I think the ones that have come before me and paved this pathway for the journey that I have gone on, because without them and the struggle that they've had, and the struggle that's actually still going on for some, an issue of boys getting more resources sometimes and girls getting shifted to backfields is something that we need to be more vocal about. And I encourage not just girls to be vocal about it, but boys. Because if these clubs hear the boys' voices as well, they'll be more likely to make changes for the women's teams. But if you're a young wāhine Māori coming up, just know that there is a pathway for you now. And to keep working hard is the most important thing, but do not stop dreaming. I think I would say that I've been through some turbulence in my life, but through all of it, I've not stopped dreaming. And I think if you stop dreaming, that's when it's over for you. So keep dreaming, keep striving no matter what, and you will get there.
Wow, what awesome advice, Barno. Awesome advice. That's amazing, kōrero there, Rongo. Now, looking ahead, what are some of your goals? You talk about dreaming, so obviously you've got some dreams. What's some of your dreams and goals, both in rugby and beyond, that you want to kind of aspire to?
I think the most important one for me is, it's easy to say my sports goals, but for now I'm going to try and keep that a bit more to myself. Sorry, whānau, but I will say that one of my dreams is to be a good human before I'm a good athlete, and then I know that I will be a good athlete because I'm a good human.
Love that. Love that. That's so cool. Now, you're at something pretty special today too, aren't you? CrossFit, you're doing something at CrossFit there. Tell us a little bit about what's happening today.
Yes, I am actually at the Movement's Nakawhiti competition that they've organised here. I'm supporting my partner and his sister. They've just competed, and I'm also supporting all of the whānau because there's actually a couple of people, it's one of those Māori events where you rock up and then you see everybody. So it's really cool and it's exciting. Yeah, and I just love that they are using this event, but it's bringing so much hauora to our whānau and to Māori across Aotearoa. It's important that we keep going to things like these and turning up and supporting and competing as well.
Beautiful. Well, it's been an absolute honour to kōrero with you, Rongo, on the show, and to hear your amazing words of wisdom and to hear of your beautiful journey that you've been on, not only here in Aotearoa, but across the world doing what you love. And I'm sure that's created so many beautiful memories for you. And I'm sure it's obviously helped you with that guiding light in terms of the future and that direction that you head in now. So thanks so much for all that you do. Keep flying the flag for our wāhine and sports, and we look forward to watching your growth into the future.
Thank you so much for having me, Caps. Ngā mihi whānau. And if you ever need any advice, any of you young wāhine Māori or tāne Māori, feel free to reach out to me on my socials and, I'll help you see where the path can lead you.
Kia ora.